Hi, how are you?
Hang on. Can you hear me?
I sure can. We're recording straight away, so let's take off where we left off. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the first interview. Some of the challenges have really marked that as one of their favourite videos so far.
Welcome.
And it really struck a chord with them because I think that very early beginning of the challenge where they're not quite grasping discipline just yet. And I think an incredible story helps them realise that they're in a position to get up and go. So thank you for that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's the time just flew last time, so I was really looking forward to having the second opportunity to sit down with you and talk about a little bit.
Absolutely. Where we left off, we started talking about the achievements that you had during the bodybuilding show and where you're at today at the age of 50. I think what's more relevant, we started talking about things like clients not eating properly, the age-old problem of women starving themselves because they think that's going to help them lose weight, always putting themselves last. Now, I'm not a mother by any stretch of the imagination, and I guess you don't have children, but we have fluffy children. What do you think the most common mistakes that mothers make, in your opinion and in your experience with some of your clients in the past?
I think a huge one for the mothers I've trained is that they tend to put everybody else before themselves. So, of course, as a mother, I'm not a mother either, as you know. I just see over and over that they will always neglect their own needs for the benefit of the family, the benefit of the children. And so what I often see is women who come to me when their children have grown up or they're teenagers and they're sort of fending for themselves a little bit more. Finally, they have a little bit of time on their hands and they sort of let themselves now search and seek for some health and fitness in their lives.
Yeah.
And they come to me in their early to mid to late 40s and they've had 20 years of neglect on their bodies and their minds and their emotions and their general health. And they struggle with motivation, with sleep issues, with chronic tiredness. They're overweight, they're unfit, and so I can't comment on what a mother should or shouldn't do. But what I do know is that if the head of the family doesn't look after herself first and fill her cup, then you can't give from an empty vessel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're running on empty, if you're tired, if you're stressed, if you're feeling horrible in your skin, if you hate the way you look, if your self-esteem is down the tubes, how is that going to reflect on how you, the role model that you want to present to your family, to your children? Yeah.
So you'd also understand being a businesswoman as well and running your own business and training other people. What's your go-to ways of finding time to put in the exercise and the discipline?
I have got that down to a fine art now. Yeah. When I first started my business, which was 20 years ago in PT, for the first 2 or 3 years, I barely trained at all because I was just so busy and I was putting my clients before myself. And, that I was okay with that because, I was starting a business. I was saying yes to everything. I was starting at 5:30 in the morning, often finishing at 10 o'clock at night, pulling massive long hours, 6 days a week. And I had nothing left to give. I had no routine, so I was just catching sessions here and there. These days I recognise, after suffering and working through burnout because of my lack of looking after myself and chronically overloading my work.
So you could say that really running the business is like having a family and children, right? Because you're working with multiple people. And I don't know about you, but as a PT, when you have more than a dozen people that you're looking after, it can get quite overwhelming and you do put yourself last. And that's kind of like having a family, really, isn't it? And we're women, so we want to nurture everybody. But again, you understand burnout and putting yourself last and all those things you just discussed.
I certainly do. And that I do consider my business my child. You know, I am heavily invested, everything. When my clients are invested, when they invest in me, I invest in them as well. Through trial and error, through burnout, through chronic stress, terrible eating habits, all of those things that I see in my mother clients, I experienced that as an early business owner. And so I learned the hard way again, what I need to do to look after myself. Because again, how can I give to my clients? How can a mother give to a child when you're burnt out, you're run down, and there's just nothing there to give?
And you need to set the standard too. Like a lot of PTs, you want to look like a PT as well. Like we forget the fact that they're looking up to us for advice, and we need to really step up and live the life that we're preaching.
Yes, exactly. Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk as well. So for many years now, after burnout in the early days, I prioritise sleep. Right, sleep is number one. That is at the keystone of everything else. Without sleep, then you know you're going to struggle to eat nutritious meals because you're going to be grabbing sugar and refined carbohydrates to try to pick you up. You're going to be relying on caffeine to try to give you energy. Sleep for me is number one. Stress management is number two. Then I've got to eat really well and hydrate, of course, and then exercise after that. But sleep is a priority. So I had to really do an overhaul of my lifestyle and set my calendar up in such a way and make the hard decisions as well, and make the hard calls, you know, saying no when I needed to say no. And I was okay with that because my health had to come first. Sleep, stress management, nutrition, hydration, movement, exercise. So as a result of that, I've lived like that for years now, and I just feel great. I just feel great most of the time. When I don't feel great, it's because one of those things is not in alignment with my values.
And let's talk about women who are getting to that age group between the sort of 45s and even 65s. I don't think they understand the connection between good health and hormone health and how important the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, you know, something that I have witnessed these past 2 decades working as a PT is the number of older women and younger women with hormone disruptions. Last year alone, I had 3 clients in their 40s, 3 women in their 40s have hysterectomies due to 2 were endometriosis and 1 was chronically iron deficient. She just couldn't hold iron. So 3 with hysterectomies. I've trained young women over the years, and I currently have clients who have endometriosis and PCOS as well. And I've never seen this many hormone disruptions as I have in these past few years. And I'm no expert. I can't attribute it to any one thing because it's never attributable to any one thing. But certainly it is a major problem, and it's chronic out there amongst women.
There's a page called Endometriosis SA. I don't know if you've been on it or not, but Kylie is working with women's health at the moment, and it's and colorectal health. It is huge, and this is why she's booked solid. The endometriosis is on the rise, so much so that this page has got thousands of women on it, and they're all discussing their hormones and they're all discussing their endo, and there's not a lot of help out there for them because endo is a very, very complex subject. So if anyone's watching this and you know someone who has endometriosis or you have endometriosis, please go to the same page you get these videos from, and there's a wonderful podcast there with Libby Trainer Parker, who started the endometriosis page. She has a show, a fringe show that sells out every year, and she did a wonderful interview with Kylie, and they both sort of crossed paths about, you know, endometriosis and went right into it. And I agree with you, women's health is the biggest market at the moment for anyone that's in women's health at all, and we're seeing it directly in the clinic. So let's all talk about also a lot of issues that come with women's health as well, and that is, like you said, hormones and food and nourishment and sleep and all those things that women need, which is what they're all not getting. And it's, the answer is simple, but getting them to do it is another thing. let's talk about, and I know I have a couple of clients, and you may have had these in the past as well. What about the clients who do things like gastric banding and things like that? I have come across myself with 3 or 4 clients that have had gastric banding, and I've had open discussions with them about how they have felt after their surgery and what other things that have happened. One of those massively is iron deficiency. One of them is, again, a bad relationship with food. And some of them have even put the weight back on because even though they're eating small amounts, they're eating all the things they would that, in high density calories in such small amounts. Have you come across that as well?
I have. I have had clients over the years who have, not many, 1 or 2, who have resorted to gastric banding, and there was another procedure as well. I'm not sure of the name of it.
But they shorten the bowel, I believe.
Yeah, that's a little bit more. It was a bit more of a major operation than gastric banding, irreversible, I believe. But I think that obesity is such a complex issue that I certainly agree that there are some people who need to get surgery,
Yep.
some people who need drug or medical support, medication. Ozempic, of course, everybody knows all about Ozempic at the moment. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But what I'm not for is seeing it as a quick fix. And I believe that somebody who is struggling with obesity, it's not just a case of saying, well, just eat less and move more.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's not helpful, and it's not supportive.
And it's more complex.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's more complex, isn't it? And it's something that makes it's like people wanting to be able to feel better within themselves. So it brings me to the same subject that we were talking about earlier in the first interview about the need to have enough protein in the diet, because a lot of them can't eat a lot of meat anymore, and they need to talk to their GPs and their specialists about iron supplementation and getting enough protein, and also a PT or a nutritionist that can help them at least find the correct diet and apply exercise, because we talk about NEAT and we talk about the need for protein to build muscle.
I 100% agree that somebody who is struggling with their weight, if they're medically, clinically obese, then they need to have a support team, and it certainly needs to be sometimes medically based, a dietitian in their corner, a fitness trainer in their corner, heck of a lot of support. For some people, it is a case of you just got to buckle up, put your big girl pants on, do some more exercise and stop eating crap. That's the case for a lot of people. They do need more discipline in their life. Certainly the role of protein is one big thing, one major aspect that you can start today that will start to improve your health.
Yeah.
And your body composition and your metabolism. It's interesting, a lot of women seem to be really averse to eating protein-rich foods. I don't know why that is, but
I think it's because of some of those things you mentioned. I think they live such high stressful lives, they don't get enough sleep, so they're just always reaching for those quick chocolate fix, the quick caffeine fix, or just not eat at all, because it just seems easier. And then they get all these mixed messages with fasting and things like that. And I remember your comment saying it's such an old attitude that we're thinking about these things. They're just quick fixes. And I think that, and it's hard to eat a lot of protein, isn't it, really? Like when you think about it, someone who's never done it before, beginning to improve your protein, it's the first question one of my clients said, I'm finding it difficult. How do I eat more protein?
Yes, 100%. They, in my experience as well, they really struggle often to even get the recommended daily intake in, which is very, very low. So the RDI is around about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilo of body weight. So for a 70 kilo woman, that's 70 grams, let's say, of protein a day. I've often worked out the protein intake of some of my clients when they start with me, and they're not even hitting that. So the recommended daily intake that's just to keep us alive. We're not talking about thriving here. It's just the amount of protein we need to regenerate our body's cells, to keep things moving, to keep us breathing. If we want to thrive and feel great, build muscle, burn body fat, then we need more than that. And the guidelines are anywhere from 1.8 up to 2.2, 2.4 grams per kilo of body weight if you do exercise and you're a little bit more athletic, a little bit more than sedentary.
So let's talk about your diet and the comments that you made near the end of the first video about NEAT. Okay, and NEAT is obviously someone who burns calories at rest with all the exercise and eating and sleeping and burning calories by doing all the things they normally do. Now, you mentioned that in this comp you didn't do any cardio, you just trained weights, resistance weights, and how important that is for women as well. And also the fact that you just only did a walk and you did everything with diet.
Yes.
And let's talk, because everyone's been given their BMR, and talk us through why it's important to calorie count, and especially we're going into the month of August, we're going to hone in on macros.
Great. This is the thing. To lose body fat. So what's body fat? Body fat is simply our body's response to eating calories that we don't use as energy. So body fat is simply stored excess energy that we've consumed from our diet and we haven't expended during the day or the week or whatever. So to lose body fat, we need to consume less calories than what our body needs to function. And then the body will burn or use its own body fat stores to bring it up to where it needs to be in terms of calorie expenditure. So we need to eat less and creating a calorie deficit. So it's a numbers thing. How do we know if we're in a calorie deficit if we don't track what we're eating? This is the importance of weighing and measuring everything that we consume, everything. Even if it's a dash of milk in your coffee, it's still got to be tracked and measured and counted towards your daily calorie count. So we must be able to track what we're eating, measure everything exactly, be precise with our tracking to ensure that we're in a calorie deficit. Because if we're not, if we're just guessing or we're not tracking that well, we could easily be in our calorie maintenance or even in surplus, which means we're either going to stay the same or gain weight, certainly not lose weight. So it's imperative. It is the only way to know. You don't need to track and measure forever and ever and ever. We don't need to worry about the future because it will take care of itself. But for now, for your challenges, if they want to shift body fat, they've got to learn how to track precisely and be really good.
Like you said, you've been doing this for such a long time. Talk us through, and you probably know it off the top of your head anyway. What's an average day of food for you off the top of your head? Like, people sort of go, well, what do I eat all day?
So,
because I know what mine is. I've used my FitPal now for 8 years, and I can pretty much look at a plate and know exactly what's going on. I bet you can do that too, right?
Pretty much. I'm still loosely tracking at the moment. Of course, while I was prepping, because I had very specific goals and I had to meet those goals every day, every week, every month to a certain date to my competitions, every single gram of everything was measured, tracked, and put in my fitness pal.
Right. It worked.
It worked. It absolutely did. I even, of course, counted my supplements because there's calories in krill oil. I was taking krill oil, there's 10 calories right there worth of krill oil, and every calorie matters. At the moment, because I'm in a maintenance phase, I'm loosely tracking, still keeping an eye on things. I'm up around 2,100 calories now. And essentially, I'm still eating my diet food. So what I was eating while I was prepping. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I really enjoy it. It's not just diet food, it's just healthy, whole food. I love it, I enjoy it, it makes me feel really good.
And your 2,100 calories, that might seem crazy to everyone on the challenge because you guys are sitting around your 14s and 1600s and you're still struggling to eat that much. But of course, your NEAT or your daily output is completely different to, say, a challenger. So you need that to feed the muscle and continue with your physique if you want to maintain your muscle mass and your physique over time, yeah?
So at the moment, of course, because I'm coming out of a fat loss phase, it's about restoring balance, restoring maintenance calories. I felt, like I said, I felt great right through prep. Of course, I was tired and there were days where I was depleted, and that's normal, a normal part of it. But as a whole prep, I was so healthy and I felt so good that it feels like this phase, I haven't had to recover from anything.
Yeah.
These preps, I've had to recover. And it took months for me to come back to feeling normal again. I feel normal again. I haven't weighed myself, but at a guess, I've gained 5 or 6 kilos, which is probably about right for me. I've usually gained a lot more in this period of time. So what will happen is that there'll be a very quick fat regain, because being in a deficit, a big deficit for as long as I was in a deficit for, the body's just crying out and it just wants to store body fat. So of course it stores really quickly, and then in my experience, I will come back to balance and I will find my happy place again. So at the moment, I'm probably 1 kilo or 2 more than what I will finally balance at. So I'm just going with it, and I'm just enjoying my food. And some days, I'll tell you, it's a heck of a lot more than 2,100 calories. So, and I'm good with that.
Part of the sun. There you go. That's better. So let's talk about your competition weight, because obviously people don't do competitions. They're not in a competition. They're not doing a bodybuilding show. So what was your average calories for the day at the end of the comp? Were you on like a 1,200? Was it 1,400? You're still quite high because of the output.
Yeah, it was still quite high. So the lowest calories I was on was about 1,510.
Yeah.
And the high, if I averaged it out, because it changed from week to week.
Yeah.
So some were high weeks, some were low weeks. If I averaged it out over the entire prep period, the 30 weeks, and if I include the carb loads, which were epic, because before you go on stage, you have to carb up, because it's the carbohydrates that fill your muscles up that make you look like a bodybuilder, make you look.
They fill you up with, yeah. They give you all that extra load, don't they, into the muscle?
Yeah, absolutely. And I needed to eat a lot to fill out. So if I average all of it out, including the like I said, the carb loads, I was probably on every day maybe 1,900 calories, 1,800-ish.
Guys, you've got nothing to complain about trying to reach 1,400 or 1,600 calories, because you will be going up eventually. But, you know, challenges, you need to get to that 1,600 calories. You need to be upping your proteins in order to survive, in order to thrive, and also to get not a bodybuilding physique, because I think this is 2 different things, but a physique that's going to get them through into their prime, right?
This is right. How old are your challengers?
Anywhere between 37 up to 62. So okay. They're all varied ranges, yeah. And I think there's a couple in their 30s. So it's a very mid-range. You could say 37 to 62.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what they do now, you know, what we do in our 20s and 30s, we start to see it, feel it, wear it in our bodies in our 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. So what we do now is it's going to determine how we look and feel, you know, 10, 20, 30 years down the track. So it's never too late to turn a corner and to start looking after ourselves and being healthy. But, you know, the protein is absolutely key. Whole foods, especially when you're only eating 12, 13, 1,400 calories.
And the reason why we're doing that is because they're not eating enough as it is. So I'm trying to give them baby steps because they'll find they'll still lose weight even though they're eating more. So, and some of them have suggested they wanted a 1,200 calorie diet on this crazy diet, and I said it's not enough. I'm not going to put anyone on anything that's 1,200 calories, not even a bodybuilder, because it's not enough for you to live, grow, cell growth, to function, basically.
How many weeks are the challenges in?
20. They're 3 weeks in now.
3 weeks in. Have you noticed that with the calories that they're eating, see, sometimes it can take, of course, time for appetites to reset, for people to actually start getting hungry, and that's a good thing. So when you start to feel hungry on those low calories, that's a good thing. It means that your metabolism's working better, digestion's starting to work better. So if they find themselves, or if and when they find themselves at that place, that's going to be a good thing and something to be embraced.
Absolutely, because that comes up regularly during the challenge as well. People saying, I'm just not hungry. And that's when you know you've got a sluggish metabolism, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's certainly a sign.
For those years training yourself to not eat, like it's just a habit they have formed that the body just knows it's just not going to eat. And like bodybuilding, I don't know about you, but when I first did it, I ate more food than I've ever eaten before, and I was questioning everybody. How the hell am I going to lose weight if you're making me eat all this chicken and all this? And I went crazy, and then I ended up at 47.8 kilo at the end of 3 months. Yeah. You know, and I went, wow. And that was just increasing my protein, really, and eating 5 meals a day. And I ended up having two hourly feeds because I was that hungry. I thought I was going to raid the fridge in my sleep.
Yeah. What tends to happen is that a lot of people feel like during the day they don't eat a lot, but what they're eating is low volume, high calorie food. Whereas on a more nutritious, like a bodybuilding diet plan or a more nutritious whole food meal plan, the meals are a lot bigger, but they're actually lower in calories. So in a day, you might be eating a heck of a lot more volume than you've ever eaten before, but you're probably eating a lot less calories than you've eaten because you tend to choose those higher calorie, lower volume foods. So it can be strange for people to sit down to a big chicken salad, which might be, you know, as bigger than they've eaten before, and believe that there's not that many calories in there, when in fact that's the case.
And there are massive changes for the challenges because we start off with dry July, and you know it shows on the scales pretty much the first month because they've given up all those empty calories in alcohol alone, and it kind of freaks them out a little because some people will drop, you know, maybe half a kilo, some will drop a kilo, some will drop 1.5 kilos just from that one little thing without even getting up and moving and without really even changing their diet a lot, especially those who already eat a lot.
It says a lot, doesn't it? And it's very motivating when that happens, because for a lot of people, giving up alcohol is like cutting their right arm off. It's all giving up a child. Mm-hmm. So to have a payoff like that, where they're not just a number on a scale as a payoff, but also the way that they're feeling and looking, and I bet they're sleeping a lot better and waking up refreshed as well.
A lot of great changes coming through with the questionnaires that I'm sending out, and it's really important that they notice those changes in their bodies, especially the ones that have given up Red Bull, like daily Red Bull and caffeine, and she started eating. And the feedback that I'm getting from her, and I know that people don't like to talk about it, and they think I don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about poop. Right, and waking up in the middle of the night because your liver's going, whoa, you know, all of a sudden it's not got all this junk in it, and the changes in the body are unbelievable. And as is when you start doing bodybuilding, you notice a lot of changes in the way that you sleep, in the way that you poop, in the way that you feel, and that's going to happen with people, isn't it, on that first probably 3 to 4 weeks of the challenge.
Well, definitely. Things are going to be changing rapidly, and
they get worse before they get better. Like a lot of people are really unwell at the moment. They're getting flus very easy. They're getting sick very easy. It's a tough month.
That's really interesting. Certainly, I've just started with a new client. She's been with me for 3 weeks now, and she is sticking to the plan like glue. She's training with me once a week. She's doing cycle classes twice a week. and I've provided her with a meal plan as well that she is sticking to, and the scale is coming down. She's losing body fat, but more than that, she feels amazing.
Yeah.
She says she feels light, she feels clean, she has more energy, she's more motivated, and they're the things that we feel almost straight away. No, the scales and the weight loss, that will be a side effect, and that will come if you put these things into place on a daily basis, where you get more sleep, you eat more protein, eat more whole foods, more fruits and vegetables, manage your stress, make sure you're hydrated, being active, doing some strength training and going for a walk. It's really, they're the basics. And if somebody did that for 30 days in a row who has never really pursued a healthy lifestyle before, it would be life-changing.
It is so wonderful to watch, and you're 100% correct. If you can get people on side. And I think the other thing is some of people who find it very difficult to even get started on the challenge, and they're sort of denying it. And you got to try and change them into a habit of going, okay, you need to drop something out of your life to make room for this, the gym sessions, the diet, the thing. And like you're saying, the benefits of that far outweigh having to find time to do that, right?
Oh, yes. And, if you haven't done that before, you're flying blind. So all you can go on, you can't go on your past experience. You don't know how good you can feel because you've never experienced that. All you can do is just trust your trainer, put your faith into, how they're guiding you and how they're supporting you. But you also need to want it as well. And just trust the process. Give it some time. After a couple of weeks, you're going to start to feel great. And then that's going to be the motivation to keep you going.
Absolutely. And you touched on that 100% right. And I get really excited. And the thing I like about your story is that, as a PT and as a person that has tried to get a fit and healthy lifestyle, the science behind everything that I've read and I'm reading now is exactly what you're doing, and you've proven it. I think Samuel Mozart is another classic example of someone who is vegan, who has done little to no cardio. He absolutely doesn't eat any meat protein. He exercises and bodybuilds, and he has a physique like I've never seen before in anyone. And it kind of freaked me out because I did a bodybuilding course with, I can't remember who the federation was. It was a really thick book and it went through all the old school way of doing it. Now that works, right? It does work, but they're saying you can't get muscles without meat. But then you fast forward to 2020 to 24, and now you got people such as yourself and Sam who are doing this, and you're thinking, wow, the science behind it. Finally, I could see the product of that. And it's great to see, isn't it?
Yes. You're right. It's been the past 10 to 15 years, there's been a lot more evidence-based protocols introduced into bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding and body recomposition. So we know better these days than what we knew in the early days of the chicken and broccoli bro diets. You're right. It worked. And we were lean and, we were on stage. We did it, but it was hard and it was miserable and it was unhealthy. Cardio every single day, running on fumes, very, very low calorie, very, very low fat. We know better. We don't have to flog ourselves doing cardio. We don't have to be on 1,200 calories. We need to have fats in our diets to keep our hormones healthy, to help fat-soluble vitamins be absorbed into our system. We need carbohydrate to keep our stress hormones low and to allow us to function in the world, to allow us to exercise and do the things that we need to do. So we just know better these days. And when you know better, you do better and you feel better as a result.
It's like bodybuilding is like what people are doing to themselves now. They don't eat enough fuel. They go hard as they can. They try to not eat. They're putting themselves in ketosis every single day when they don't really need to. And the reason why I say that is because there's somebody, I do keto or I do this, or good on you, but are you eating enough fuel and are you eating enough nourishment? Because I know for a fact if you eat you know, enough meals during the day, and it's got enough macros, and it's got nourishment, you can still lose weight and you can still feel great, and you're probably going to have a better hormone system. Because I don't know about you, but being in ketosis or carb depleted or not eating at all, it sends you wah-wah. Like, you can't focus, you can't function, you're angry, you're grumpy, you know, you're selfishly walking around like a bear with a sore head. Who wants to put themselves through that every single day?
Not at all. And it just doesn't have to be that way. Something like that is completely unhealthy.
That's why people don't like diets, right? Because they think, oh, it's all restrictive and it makes me feel this, but they're quite happy to starve themselves.
The best diets that work are the ones that you can stick to.
Yeah.
So every diet works. So if you stick to a keto diet or a, you know, high fat, low carb, low fat, high carb, cabbage soup diet, you know, whatever diet is trendy on Instagram at the moment, they all work because they all work by putting you into a calorie deficit. But do they really work? And if you can't sustain something, if you can't sustain certain nutrition protocols for a long period of time to get all of the weight off, then it's not going to work for you. So it's finding the right protocol that will work for you sustainably, because if you have a lot of weight to lose, it's not going to come off in 10, 12, 16 or 20 weeks. You know, if you have 30 or 40 kilos to lose, you're looking at 12 months and more, you know, and that's a really, really long time.
Yeah.
So doing it in a healthy, sustainable way is the only way it's going to work, because if you white knuckle it through a restrictive diet, then you're relying on willpower, and willpower eventually runs out of steam. You can white knuckle it for as long as you like, but then it's inevitably going to be you falling off the wagon because you're starving. And it can create unhealthy relationships with food, all sorts of things. So health first. Health first.
Yeah, health first challenges. That is the one thing I'm talking about with you all. The ultimate goal at the end of this challenge is that you need to have a sustainable exercise, diet, and basically healthy living that's going to be sustainable for the rest of your life. You don't stop walking because the 20 weeks is over. You make sure you walk every day for 20 minutes and de-stress. It's sustainable, right? And that's the habit that you need to change, challenges. And you need to find a diet that suits you and find that happy medium between what do I have to do every day? Walk every day and maybe have this many calories, have a cheat meal once a week. And look, I did it. Oh, wicked. But it needs to be, as you said, 100% correct, Mareike, sustainable. Otherwise,
that's right. Because at the end, if you view it as something I'm doing for 20 weeks and then that's it, I go back to my normal life, well, that's great. You're going to gain it all back again. What's the point? You haven't learned anything. You've lost the weight, but then you've got to ask yourself, do you want to lose the weight for now, temporarily, or do you want to lose the weight forever? If you want to keep the weight off and lose it forever, then the principles that you're learning right now during this challenge will be the principles that you live by forever. It doesn't mean you're going to drink out and not have a glass of wine. Of course you are. Of course there's going to be days where you're going to not be able to go to the gym. Of course there's going to be pizza nights and celebrations and all sorts of things, because that's normal life. But you're going to learn how to be able to have your cake and eat it too. Maintain your weight through the knowledge that you'll gain and experience through this challenge.
So let's talk about, because we had a client today we interviewed who didn't know how to manage a plan when something crops up like, oh hell, I'm going to a function tonight and there's free alcohol and food. What shall I do? I'm freaking out. You got to have a plan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to have a plan. So these things are always going to come, as you said, 100% right. What was your way of a plan when, you know, not, let's say not as a bodybuilder, but let's just say now when you're looking after yourself, you're quite welcome to have alcohol if you want it. What would be your plan if you went out and you had all these people you had to party with and everyone else, and then you've got friends who are going, come on, have a drink. What would your plan? What would be your advice to the challengers?
It can be hard. I don't drink alcohol, and I haven't for a really, really, really long time.
Let's say it's bad food, cake, ice cream, something that you know that you have to not restrict. You still want to go out and have a good time. What would your plan be? Because I would suggest something like, well, okay, plan to have one drink every 2 hours, and plan what time you're going to go home. And then plan that your last drink is 2 hours before you're going home, and plan what time you're going to go to bed. So you put in an action plan so that every hour you've got one drink, you take your time drinking it, you can only have 3 drinks in that night. And there's your plan. It's pretty simple, right? You can still have a drink. With the food, again, do you not eat as many calories in the day, or you just say, stuff it, I'm having a cheat meal, that's my plan? What would your plan be? Is very similar?
I would suggest to my clients, it depends on where they are in their fat loss phase. You know, there's so many variables, but if they're ticking along really well and they haven't had an off-plan meal, or they haven't had a night out for a period of time, then I would say enjoy yourself. Literally only have a couple of drinks, because if you have too many, you're not going to feel great. And it's not just the calories from the alcohol that can be detrimental to your results. It's also when people drink alcohol, of course, are a little bit more relaxed, and then it's very easy to start eating foods that you normally wouldn't be eating on your plan. So if it's a finger food thing, I would say eat before you go. Have your dinner before you go. Because if you go there hungry, you're going to be eating all of that finger food. And
if you drink alcohol on an empty stomach.
So eat your dinner, eat your healthy, normal dinner. I would say you could even hold back a few calories from a meal or two that day and the next day, so that over that week you're still in a calorie deficit. So certainly have a plan.
Great
execute the plan, and you'll stay on track.
Absolutely. So we also talk about quickly that you do have clients and you do PT from home. Just give the listeners or the challengers some ideas of what you do, and whether or not you've got some spaces open if anyone's keen to jump on board, because I know a lot of them are now deciding whether or not or next month we'll be talking about, looking into some sort of gym work or training, and a lot of them are starting to figure out that they may not necessarily have time for a meal plan. So I think you do nutrition as well as your PT and training. So give us a quick rundown of your menu items and your availabilities as well, and we'll put your contacts in the bottom of the video for people to contact you.
Well, I do online coaching and face-to-face. So I have a fully equipped private studio in Torrensville, where I hold my face-to-face PT sessions. I train both men and women, but mostly women. And women of all ages and all abilities. So I do train people who want to lose weight. I train people who want to just feel good and live healthy lives, who want to make the most of their days. Most of my clients are generally in it for the longevity and the health benefits. So I promote balance in life. So, I love to work with women who specifically strength train, but I do training for endurance events. I do all sorts. It depends on your goals. I've been training people for 20 years. I have a lot of experience in my own training that I can share with others. So if somebody wants to know what it feels like to do ultra endurance hikes, I can share my personal experience and guide them in that direction. But I help people with their nutrition as well. So everything can be done face-to-face or online. So wherever you are in the world.
Awesome. And don't forget challenges that I know that this happened to me quite regularly. Some people thought that if they trained with me, I was going to train them into a bodybuilder. And they would say, I don't want to train with her because I don't want to be a bodybuilder. Get that idea out of your head, guys, because PT sometimes, Mareike obviously told her story, but when I did it, I just wanted to see whether the science worked and what I wanted to learn. And, you would never manipulate a regular person on a bodybuilder's diet, ever, right?
Definitely not. So I am all for strength training and all for women becoming empowered mentally and emotionally through the work they do in the gym. And of course, the incredible physical benefits of building muscle for women. Not just now, but it's a future investment that will pay dividends. keep people healthy, mobile, strong, well into their later years.
And it brings me to the closing shortly. There's that meme that goes around about, you know, what are you willing to invest now into your future? Because you will be paying for your unhealthy habits more than what you're putting in now. And I had that conversation with someone yesterday who said, oh, I'm spending so much money on my health at the moment. I don't know, you know, about this investment. And I said, you know what, you'll only appreciate this investment when you can't do it anymore, or you're not allowed to do it anymore, and you become unfit. Because I don't think people realize what they're doing, because when you get fit, it's hard to judge how fit you are. And you would understand that as soon as you get an injury and you stop any form of training and your mental health goes down the shitter and you eat shit, everything else snowballs into more depression and more things, and then you come to appreciate that investment that you're putting into.
Yes. And you know, there is no investment too small either. If all you can manage is 2 sessions a week, that's fantastic. Do 2 sessions a week. It's better than 0 sessions a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, everything does come at a cost. You know, it does take a time investment right now, and an energy investment right now to do the work, to do your healthy meal prep, to go for a walk and do your strength training in the gym.
Yeah.
But the payoff is that you'll continue to have good health for years to come. And it's not just about a longer life, it's quality of life as well.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't look after ourselves now, then the cost of that will be constant doctor's appointments, hospital visits, and medications and prescriptions, and reliance on a very unreliable system.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crumbling around us. And, you know, I even believe that, you know, a lot of GPs and a lot of MDs that I'm discovering on Facebook and things like that are all about the new way of living and trying to avoid things like medications and things like that. So guys, that's great advice from Mareike there. And you are living proof as a person, 20 odd years in the industry, building a body that, you know, obviously is doing you proud. And congratulations again on how far you've come, because you're a great leader in the industry. And a lot of women can aspire to, and I do as well. I think it's great to have a muse in the industry to look up to and learn from, and it feels like you're not alone in this quest to help other people.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you for giving me the time to have a chat with your challenges, and I wish you challengers all the very, very best over the next 17 weeks for the remainder of your challenge. You're in good hands with Jo, and just follow the process, and the rewards will be so worth it. And
be patient.
Be patient. Keep your expectations real and be patient. Yes.
Guys, I will leave the contacts for Mareike underneath this. Mareike Miller Fitness, her website contacts, and also her Facebook as well, where you can see some amazing photos of her journey. Thank you again, Mareike, and I look forward to hopefully funneling some people your way to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo.